The palace of Arcturus Prime burned in the distance, its crystalline spires collapsing one by one as the Vorkan fleet unleashed their final assault. Princess Penelope stood at the viewport of the royal bunker, her violet skin pale with shock, her elegant arms trembling as she watched her world die. "Your Highness, we must go deeper," urged Chancellor Vex, his voice crackling through the emergency comm system. The lower levels, the transmission cut off abruptly. Penelope knew what that meant. The Vorkans had breached the inner sanctums. Everyone who had sworn to protect her was either dead or dying. Everyone except one. "Ma'am, we need to move." Now, Penelope turned to see Private David Chen, the single human soldier assigned to her protective detail. As part of the Terran-Arcturian Alliance Treaty, he stood in full combat gear, his rifle clutched in scarred hands, his brown eyes hard with determination. Of all the mighty Arcturian warriors, the celebrated Honor Guard, the elite defenders of the crown, only this human remained. "They're all gone," Penelope whispered, her voice breaking. "My father, the council, everyone. The Vorkans have won. With respect, Your Highness, they haven't won anything yet." David moved to the bunker's control panel, his fingers flying across the alien interface with practiced ease. "You're alive. That means the crown survives. That means Arcturus survives. I'm just one person. So am I." David looked up at her, a grim smile crossing his face. "And humans have a saying, one is better than none." The bunker shuddered as explosions rocked the foundations above. Dust rained from the ceiling. David grabbed Penelope's arm, her upper right one, and pulled her toward the emergency escape tunnel. "Where are we going?" she asked, stumbling after him. "Anywhere but here." They ran through corridors carved from living stone, past chambers filled with priceless artifacts of Arcturian culture. Penelope's heart's ached for of them, knowing these treasures would soon be rubble. The Vorkans took no prisoners and left no heritage intact. David led them through passages even Penelope had forgotten existed, consulting a handheld datapad as he navigated. "I studied every map of this palace they gave me," he explained. "Figured it might come in handy someday." "You prepared for this?" "I prepare for everything, ma'am. It's what humans do." They emerged into an abandoned transit station 3 kilometers from the palace. The platform was empty, the magnetic rails cold and dead. David immediately began scanning for threats, his movements efficient and calculated. "The city is evacuated," Penelope said, her voice hollow. "Everyone fled when the orbital bombardment began." "We're alone." "Good," David replied. "Alone is easier to hide." Over the next 3 days, David kept Penelope alive through impossible odds. When Vorkan patrols swept the ruins, he constructed hiding spots from debris and rubble. When food ran scarce, he ventured into collapsed buildings to scavenge supplies, always returning with something: ration packs, water purifiers, even a thermal blanket. "How do you do it?" Penelope asked on the 4th night as they huddled in an abandoned underground hydroponics bay. "How do you keep going when everything is lost?" David was cleaning his rifle, a ritual he performed every evening. "Humans have lost everything before," he said quietly. "Many times throughout our history, we've faced extinction, devastation, apocalypse. But we have this stubborn refusal to quit." He looked at her, his eyes reflecting the dim emergency lighting. "It's not about whether you can win anymore. It's about whether you can survive long enough to fight again tomorrow." "But what's the point? My people are scattered. My world is conquered." "Your people need a symbol," David interrupted. "They need to know their princess lives. That alone is worth everything." On the 7th day, they made contact. A Terran destroyer, the Indomitable, had broken through the Vorkan blockade and was extracting survivors. David managed to jury-rig a communicator from salvaged parts, and within hours, a human rescue team arrived at their coordinates. As they boarded the shuttle, Penelope looked back at her devastated world. Tears streamed down her face, her hands clenched into fists. "I should have died with them," she whispered. David stood beside her at the viewport. "No, Your Highness, you should live for them. That's the harder path. That's the one that requires real courage." "Why did you stay?" she asked, turning to face him. "You could have evacuated with the others. You could have saved yourself." David met her gaze steadily. "Because someone had to." And because humans don't abandon their posts, we don't abandon our friends. We don't abandon people who need us. He straightened, his hand moving to his heart in a human gesture of sincerity. You asked me once what drives humanity. This is it. We endure. We protect. We refuse to let darkness win. Aboard the Indomitable, Penelope learned that pockets of Arcturian resistance had formed across a dozen worlds. Her survival became a rallying cry. The princess queen who refused to die. The last heir of Arcturus Prime, preserved by a lone human soldier who wouldn't give up. 3 months later, Penelope stood before the Terran Council, addressing the allied species. David stood at attention behind her, promoted to lieutenant. Her personal guard, a position he would never leave. Humanity taught me that survival is not weakness, she declared, her voice carrying across the chamber. It is strength. It is defiance. It is hope. She gestured to David. One human soldier held the line when an empire fell. If one can do that, imagine what we can do together. The chamber erupted in approval. But Penelope only heard one voice, David's words from that ruined hydroponics bay. It's about whether you can survive long enough to fight again tomorrow. Arcturus Prime would be liberated. Of this, she was certain, because humans had taught her the most important lesson: never surrender. Never stop fighting. Never give up.